Spending his entire campaign pretending he had never heard of Project 2025, convicted felon Donald Trump is now checking off the boxes like it's to-do list. Within just the first 2 weeks of his administration, he has already militarized the southern border, declared that there are only two genders, expanded the federal death penalty, withdrawn the United States from the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Accords, increased drilling in Alaska, and eliminated DEI from the federal government. Paul Dans, the former director of Project 2025, said it best when he told CNN on Wednesday, quote, "This is exactly the work we set out to do." Joining me now, Elie Ying-Mistal, justice correspondent at The Nation, the host of the podcast Contempt of Court, the author of both Allow Me to Retort, A Black Guy's Guide to the Constitution. I'll say the institution, Elie, I'm putting you in there. And the soon-to-be-released Bad Law, 10 Popular Laws That Are Running America. I don't care that you didn't shave, Elie Ying-Mistal, because you, my friend, always have something to share. Let's let people know. A second federal judge yesterday blocking Trump's federal funding freeze, saying that violates the separation of powers. Look, these executive orders on their face, they're overly broad, and not only are they unconstitutional, but they violate several federal statutes. So what's the strategy here, Elie? Are they just fishing to find that one judge, like an Eileen Cannon, who's going to agree with him?
No, they just don't care what the judges say. I mean, we've had injunctions stopping this illegal and unconstitutional federal funding freeze for most of this week. But who's turning the money back on? Who's actually forcing him to produce the funds that were appropriated by Congress? A court order is just a piece of paper. We are in a situation, it's like in Game of Thrones, where Ned Stark is like, here's Robert Baratheon's will, and Cersei Lannister is like, this piece of paper, like I care. And that is what Trump is doing. Project 2025, understand, it was a plan to steal power through executive actions, knowing that neither the courts nor the Congress would have the strength to resist them. Even though what he's doing is illegal, they knew that nobody would actually stand up and stop him. And so far, that part of Project 2025 has been the most correct part. Even though they wrote it down, it feels like everybody else in our government was not prepared to deal with this executive usurpation of power. And that's what kind of gets me. I don't understand that, right? I don't, like, what is Congress doing? Like, why are they even there if they're in Congress right now? Is it for the parking? Is like, that's because, like, I don't see any strength coming from Democrats or Republicans in Congress. And I say Republicans as if people are, oh, well, they agree with Donald Trump. Sure. But even if you agree with Donald Trump, you still want to have some power as a senator or congressman of the United States. Do you not? And he's usurping all of your power, Tommy Tuberville. So, like, is there no decency even among the Republican Party to show up and force Trump to do these things that they want him to do in some kind of normal way? And the answer consistently is no. You know, you got the Democrats out here, got Amy Klobuchar out here talking about, well, we're going to work with them on, like, why? Nobody wants you to work with fascists, Amy. Like, don't do that, right? We've got, oh, God is on the throne. Really? God's on the throne? If so, I can't see him. If God's on the throne, somebody needs to find me the Ark of the Covenant and call him up and wake him up, because I don't see it, right? But that's what the response is right now, a bunch of platitudes while they wrote down exactly how they were going to steal power, and they are stealing power.
Okay, so I'm over the hand-wringing as well. I feel like it's kind of those stages of grief, and I kind of feel like we should be appropriately in the anger stage of it. So the question, Elie, is, if you think that the courts are impotent then, even though there have been good, strong rule of law rulings coming out of federal judges across the board this week with this federal spending freeze issue, what are people supposed to be doing? What role then do the courts even have anymore? What role does the judicial system have anymore in terms of reining in or correcting the overreach in terms of the executive branch over this fallacy of separation of powers now?
The people put this madman in charge, and ultimately the people are the only ones that are going to stop him. And so there's a great article in Talking Points memo actually about this. People have to understand the Democrats don't have any actual power. The people did not give them any actual power. So all they can do is marshal public opinion. And I think when you have court orders. Again, some of these from Bush judges, some of these from Reagan judges,
Yep.
telling us that what Trump is doing is wrong and illegal and unconstitutional. When you have kind of, if you will, bipartisan judicial review against Trump, then as the Democrats, you have to be able to use that in a unified fashion to marshal public opinion against the madman and his cronies in charge. Remember, even though people elected Donald Trump, nobody elected Elon Musk to stage a coup over the rest of the government. So some kind of consistent messaging that starts to move public opinion away from this man is really the only way to stop him, because only the American people who empowered him can take that power away. So like, that's on the one hand, like, that's the focus, right? On the other hand, in terms of like the legal stratosphere here, Trump is violating court orders by not turning the federal funding back on. Could somebody at the Jeff Bezos press, or the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal start saying that, right? Enough with the both sidesism. He is violating court orders right now. Could you just print that? Could you just put that in a headline so maybe people have a chance to understand what's going on? One of the graphics that I love right now is that your concern about about how much danger we're in and your understanding of government is on the axis, right? And like, the more you understand how the government work, the more concerned you are. But the less you understand how things are even supposed to work, the more you're just like, well, he seems to be doing it, so I guess it's legal. It's not legal. And like, everybody who knows that needs to be screaming that from the highest rafters. And we're Amy Klobuchar, like, we're going to try to work together where we can. Like, it's just, this is why we fail. This is why we fail.
Well, for what it's worth, Elie Yingmestall, I am now saying loud and clear, Donald Trump is violating court orders, and what he's doing is illegal. My voice is one, but it's loud and mighty. But with yours, it gets even louder. Elie Yingmestall, thanks for being here, my friend. It's good to see you.